Good morning. Today I want to talk about spiritual enlightenment and creating gods. And not just a few, I'm talking about creating billions. I live in Los Angeles and have spent most of my career working at Hollywood studios making movies and games based on movies. My day-to-day job, I've created and released over 60 games for mobile, console, and VR. Skipping forward. These days, Hollywood is banking on the popularity of superheroes. Most of these superheroes are like gods. And their fans are passionate. In case you aren't following, there's an ongoing debate about Batman being better than Superman because Batman is just a man and Superman is practically a god. The intensity of the debates show how much we care, and we keep wanting more. Why do you think that is? Personally, I love these movies. The special effects are amazing, the stories are good enough, and they're funny. But this can't be the reason we all keep watching. I think the answer is obvious. We're watching because of the superpowers. They're awesome, and we all want one. Haven't we all had a talk with friends about which power we'd like to have? Here are the top 25 most popular powers. These were voted on by thousands of people on a website called ranker.com. I'd take any one of these. It would be amazing to teleport, to fly, to be super smart, read minds. But like superheroes, these powers are just fantasies. Or maybe they're not. Long before superheroes were around, humans have been hard at work trying to access real superpowers. I'm talking about spiritual enlightenment. Where I'm from in California, we're famous for it. California has a long history of cults and New Age philosophy. We have been home to thousands, maybe millions of people working hard to find spiritual enlightenment. But this search for enlightenment is actually thousands of years old. It is in the realm of ancient religions and available to devoted followers, spiritual leaders, shaman, monks, and more. And maybe it's also available to people who intensely meditate with crystals, drop acid, and practice yoga. Spiritual enlightenment's closely associated with something called the third eye. I'm asking the audience, please raise your hand if you've heard of the third eye. Okay, good. How many of you have actually opened your third eye? All right, so we've got a few. This is better than I've done. I'll be honest with you. I tried really hard for this talk, and I couldn't do it. But I guess for me, I'm not even sure I really believe in it. But a lot of people do, and have for a long time. In Hinduism, the third eye is the eye of spiritual wisdom and knowledge. The god Shiva used his third eye to see beyond the apparent and protect good people from evildoers. In Buddhism, the third eye refers to the eye of consciousness. Followers are asked to see beyond their world, mood lighting, and see the world with their mind, see the world far beyond what their physical eyes could ever see. In New Age philosophy, the third eye is associated with religious visions, clairvoyance, the ability to see auras, precognition, and out-of-body experiences. If you practice yoga, you might already know how to open your third eye. While I was researching this, I did a Google search for yoga in the third eye, and I literally found over 1 million search results on quick tips for opening my third eye, spiritual poses and chants might do it. There's a lot of easy, quick fixes. So there's also something in our body that a lot of people believe is actually a third eye. Near the center of our brain is a small organ called the pineal gland. Some scientists believe this is an old receptor for light. Apparently, like any other muscle, and this is, if you read any of those Google articles, like any other muscle, if you practice it right, you can unlock your third eye powers. Everyone seems to agree that opening your third eye requires spiritual enlightenment. I'm probably the least qualified person to describe enlightenment, but to me, it's understanding who we are and why we're here. It's about answering big questions like, what does all of this mean? I think of enlightenment as seeing truths to our world. And right now, we know that world by what we see and hear with our eyes and ears. If we can't see it, it might not even exist. But fortunately today, we see more than ever with our smartphones and tablets. With our mobile screens, we know so much more about the world than we used to. We can search for anything, have an app for everything, and with social networks, we can kind of see what our friends are thinking. This is a small piece of enlightenment. Now, the problem is you can't look at a mobile screen all the time. This happened in June this past year. There's definitely times that the screens are better put down. This person was texting and fell into a hole. Enlightenment needs to be hands-free. I think our superhero fantasies and work towards enlightenment are actually the same dream, and that dream is close to becoming reality. Virtual reality is a first step towards enlightenment. Augmented reality with glasses is where we're really going, and we're almost there. Virtual reality and augmented reality are currently geek gadgets with tons of hardware specs and first-generation content. Early investors are making huge bets because they know how disruptive AR will eventually be. It's not because of the tech, it's really affecting our very human condition. The future of AR and VR is not about a gadget at all. It's not about taking us to other places, it's not about shooting more zombies or playing ping pong with friends. It's the Star Trek holodeck would be great, but it's not really about that either, even though that would be awesome. It's a technology where our fantasies of becoming gods and aspirations for enlightenment are fulfilled. Today's VR industry leaders are making a land grab. They're making these investments for more than sales of hardware and software. They're truly looking to be part of our soul. Most people first experienced AR playing Pokemon Go. With the release of Apple's AR Kit and Google's AR Core, games and apps that interact with our real world are now relatively easy to create. And it's still magical to see digital objects that stick to the ground or to a table no matter how we move the camera. It's like the objects are really part of the real world. They can even cast shadows. This is possible because AR hardware has a camera that is smart enough to understand our world. This is one of my favorite quotes that I found on a new age website, has nothing to do with technology, called personaltao.com. The third eye is a natural part of every person. One way to think of it is as a meta-organ that consists of your mind and all of your senses working together as a larger, more powerful sensory organ. The third eye is a very clever bit of natural evolution that allows you to see the patterns in your life. Even more amazing, your third eye can reveal these patterns to you by overlaying this information on top of your other senses. Our eyes only see what they are designed to see, light. What our third eye does is process information and then overlay that information over our other senses. If we didn't know any better, this quote could be advertising the next generation of AR glasses. True AR is hands-free and will be sold in stylish frames. And it's easy to be impressed at 3D graphics that AR might add to our view, but it's the camera that's really special. The camera is always seeing what we're looking at. This subtle distinction is what elevates AR to enlightenment. This is where we find the opportunities and the risks. This camera is different than any we've had before. It looks where we look, and we never have to put it down. It's able to continually feed information to us directly through our eyes and ears. Our third eye is truly opened when this wearable camera is combined with a display, GPS, cloud AI, and biometric sensors. Let's take a look at a video called Hyperreality by Kaiichi Matsuda. This is an incredible vision for what an AR future could be like.
Fantastic. Great. Nice. Great.
Más tarde, apúrate si quieres una buena calificación.
Voy lo más rápido que puedo.
¿Has pensado en correr? Es saludable y eficiente.
Seguro que no hay más trabajos disponibles. Yo estudié para ser profesora y estoy haciendo mercados.
Y además puedes quedarte con los puntos de fidelización. Eres una monje afortunada. Tienes que confiar en la aplicación. ¿Te sientes inspirada? Gracias. Chao.
¿Quién soy yo? No, eso no es lo que quiero decir. ¿Para dónde voy? No. Puedo volver a empezar. Olvídalo.
Estoy presente ahora. Me amo. Estoy libre de mi ira. Estoy libre de mi tristeza. El amor es mi experiencia.
Adiós.
Olá, me llamo María.
Bueno. Hola otra vez. Ay, no, cállate. ¿Qué está pasando?
Buen día, Emilio. ¿Qué puedo hacer por usted?
¿Qué está pasando? Mis puntos están bien.
No se preocupe, sus puntos están seguros conmigo. ¿Le puedo ayudar en algo más, Emilio?
Yo no soy Emilio, yo soy Juliana Restrepo.
Por favor, espere.
Hola, Juliana Restrepo. Me alegra verte. ¿Qué puedo hacer por ti?
Mis puntos están bien. ¿Qué está pasando?
Tranquila, todo está bien. Parece que alguien está intentando vulnerar su cuenta. Por favor, espere mientras reinicio su dispositivo.
All right, so I've got a couple favorite parts of that video. I also have extreme anxiety that might be what AR looks like. So let's all kind of promise here amongst ourselves that we won't do this. But when I see this personalization that's happening, you know, at some point the story is showing this woman getting hacked, and all of the products that she's looking at completely change their look to be gender specific. You know, they turn into advertisements for a male shopper instead of a female shopper, and that's amazing to me because I think that's totally real. Our headset systems are going to be totally aware of what they're looking at, and they're going to load in graphics that are going to be completely targeted to who we are and what our tastes are. It's a lot more graphic design work, but I guess it's going to increase sales for these various products. My second piece that I really like is when it does the hard reset at the end, and it's actually just a very dull, normal grocery store and has nothing to do with the super graphics that are all over the place. Although I do think this is missing one crucial element, you know, as far as a vision of AR. It doesn't show off any enhanced relationships that AR is going to allow us to have with different friends and strangers. This video, there's actually a whole ending, another couple of minutes to this, that's totally worth looking at. It's on Vimeo.com. It's called Hyperreality. So it's actually amazing to me how many superpowers are easily possible with our third eye. Just to go through a few, teleportation, if we all had AR headsets that were networked together, I could be in Los Angeles, you know, sitting at my home and still appear in front of you all today. kind of like an AR hologram. This is already being done with the Microsoft HoloLens project. If we wanted to fly, we could just tap a button and use a 3D map of whatever city that we're in and, fly from where we're standing. And it's kind of like a super Google Maps, except it's aware of where we are and can totally overlay what we're seeing to help us lift off into the air. With super intelligence, I'll have a combination of cloud AI features and sensor technology that's going to let the glasses recognize everything in a view before you can blink. It'll use location information, and by understanding what you're looking at and understanding where you are, the AR system is probably going to be able to anticipate what you might need. Because it's tracking everything continuously over time, it's going to be able to extrapolate a lot of information and present it to us, like it's kind of thinking for us. This could be something as simple like suggesting ingredients for dinner, or as complicated as flying an airplane. Of course, it'll have digital zoom, so you have enhanced senses, and if I wanted to see, what's happening in the control room, I could tap my little glasses and zoom way into the control room up here. Telepathy is going to be AR's version of text messaging. If I'm trying to imagine what somebody in the audience is looking like, there's no reason to think that I couldn't do a gaze detect over somebody and send them a message. I'll be able to also experience your world, if you wanted to share it with me, through your eyes. Because you've got a camera attached to it, it's one thing showing video on Snapchat, I can literally put you into where I am and let you see all the things that I can see. AR glasses will give us these superpowers and more, beyond our wildest science fiction dreams. It creates a better us, but it's still guided by us, enhancing our world all the time. And soon enough, these powers will become so normal that we won't remember what life was like without them, just like telephone or email or social media. As creators, I think we're about to design the third eye that humanity has been seeking for thousands of years. For anyone working in VR right now, you know that a huge part of the enthusiasm comes from the opportunity to invent something new. VR will seem simple compared to what we're going to create with AR. I think that AR will be a more disruptive change than we've seen in tech ever before. Much more dramatic than when websites replace paper, when smartphones replace desktop computers. We're really redesigning every human interaction with the entire world. It might take 5 or 10 years for all of the technology to combine into something that's fashionable and has good battery life, but there's no rush. Between now and then, we have a lot of learning and a lot of work to do. Apple, Google, and Facebook are already competing for the operating system. Apple's AR Kit and Google's AR Core have been used to create a few incredible experiments, actually tons of incredible experiments. Here are a few examples to go through. This first is, and these are just tech prototypes, but as examples of what can be done, I think they are real launching points for the imagination. This first one was created by a company called Net out of France. So that concept is super simple, but super powerful. The magic doorway is super cool. I mean, that's just on a handheld screen. That's just demoing on an iPad. But if it was actually AR glasses going through magic doorways into different worlds is going to be incredible. It's going to change everything about how we visit each other, how we work, shop, play games, watch entertainment. I've also seen a lot of fun experiments where digital objects appear on real tabletops. You see games on tabletops and furniture on tabletops and whatever. It's just, stuff floating in space that's not real is neat. But seeing digital objects out in a city really shows how AR can change our world, not just a simple room example, but in space. This example was created by Duncan Walker from Trash Games in the UK. So the robot trooper obviously doesn't exist. This was filmed on an iPhone walking through the city streets, and he's following the virtual character that's walking through the city streets. And because of where he's aiming his camera, he happens to be able to see the virtual characters. I mean, it's incredible that anything that you can imagine can really be anywhere. The last example I want to share lets you see audio in space. This is an idea about audio you can see. It was created by Zach Lieberman from the School for Poetic Computation in New York City. It's really an entirely new way of seeing our world.
This is a test of talking and seeing what happens when we record audio in space. This is a test of talking and what happens when we record audio in space. Audio in space. When we record audio.
We all need to be creating experiments like these because there's no roadmap for AR. It's clear when you start experimenting with things that might have no purpose or value to the world that you really can end up with some interesting ideas. And while I'm not sure that I ever need to see audio like this, there might be a version where there's, experiences where, people can leave memories or people can leave notes or tips in a space, and just by walking around, you can kind of go through that tip and hear what they're saying. Instead of selecting it from a menu, it now becomes part of our world. But these experiments, even if they aren't practical, they'll help us break out of what's familiar to us and really enter our digitally enlightened new world. It turns out that not everyone thinks that opening the third eye is a good thing. Many think it can actually be incredibly dangerous. Christians believe that demons can enter your third eye and possess you. Even religions that accept the third eye warn that opening it before you're ready could lead to something like insanity. Hindus believe that the physical world will be destroyed if Shiva opens his third eye. This puts the next few years into perspective. Our real job is to prepare people for these new powers. The experiences that we're going to be creating in VR and mobile AR will be setting the stage for the most critical aspect of AR's success, consumer demand. Starting today in mobile AR, we'll be creating lots of games and apps. These are more than just prototypes. The mobile AR is doing something even more important. It's preparing consumers for the eventual wearable AR. VR is playing a similar role. While we are learning how to create great VR experiences, consumers will have a few years to get used to interacting with completely immersive content. There is a troubling aspect to AR glasses, and the Christians may have it right. AR could truly lead the way for demons into your soul. To be always connected to the cloud will give AI or corporations unprecedented access to everything that we see. The AR experiences will be wildly awesome with AI on our shoulder and the cameras mounted and looking at whatever we see, except it also gives AI an ability to misguide us. Fake news is already a thing on Facebook. In AR, it will be something much bigger. It could be an entirely fake world. Our smart AR camera will also have the ability to learn from us. In the best case, it'll help us do our jobs better. In the worst case, we'll be giving AI the ultimate tool to watch us and then replace us. I'd like to make a suggestion to anyone developing AR and VR. Don't worry right now about making something big. Instead, focus on making something great. When bringing someone new into VR, I always start them off with the same thing, the blue experience. It's been around for a few years now, but its fundamental qualities still make it one of the greatest first-time VR experiences. You're standing underwater next to a giant whale, and that completely delivers on the promise of VR. It gives the viewer two superpowers, teleportation and breathing underwater. And it delivers an experience that has only been a dream for most people, to be up close to a whale. It's short, but it leaves everyone asking for more. When you create for VR or AR, whether it's a small experiment or a big project, remember to focus on giving users superpowers. Create experiences that they've only dreamed about. Avoid complicated controls. Make it beautiful and don't require a tutorial. Give everyone who visits your world a reason to tell their friends to try it. I believe this is what early VR adopters are looking for. The 1.5 million people who've already bought VR headsets for their home. They want to be part of this early experiment. They are our evangelists, and if we keep them excited, they'll promote the technology to everyone else. Here's one last quote that I really like. Do not confuse knowledge with depth, or else you can fall into delusion. In other words, is knowledge learned in AR as valuable as knowledge learned from dedicated study? I think this is kind of like the superhero debate. Is it better to be Superman, whose powers are core to his being, or is it better to be Batman, whose powers come from hard work and ingenuity? Well, kind of neither. If we build AR correctly, this should not matter at all. The apps running in our AR glasses will give us an ultimate superpower where everyone has immediate access to knowledge. This is a super subtle point of this whole talk, but I think it's really important to underscore that this is truly an equity of knowledge, and it's an equity of knowledge that means everybody, no matter who you are, where you're from, will have the same information, the same access to the information. It's something that the world has never seen. Instead of debating how we get our knowledge and who can get our knowledge, we can finally focus on what we're going to do with it. In success, I believe AR glasses have the potential to move past a Batman-like gadget. When you're designing for AR, I hope that you deliver true enlightenment. Above all, remember that you are designing the way humans will experience the world, and seeing through a third eye might make us godlike, but it's also up to us if we're going to be possessed or empowered. Today, we're all more than creators. We're spiritual gurus leading billions of people to enlightenment. It's up to us to turn dreams into reality and give superpowers to everyone. Thank you.
Wow. Comments. Un poquito de luz, por favor. Vamos a conversar un poquito y hacer algunas preguntas y respuestas. Spencer, okay. Yo hablaba del sexto sentido y de la posibilidad.
Sense and the possibility that connectivity gives human beings of being connected 24/7. And that changed the way in which we connected to reality. And you're saying that organically there's a space in our brains to go through that sixth sense by way of technology. Is that so?
Well, the technology is going to, yes, there is apparently a physical thing in our brain that is set up for this. It's certainly something spiritually we've all sought, but I think technology is actually going to be the route where it's going to be delivered for most people. So yes, and that technology is going to give us a sixth sense that we've never had before. I think it's a Pandora's box. What happens, when you have a sixth sense is something that none of us really know, and this is the experiment that we're on.
Las experiencias de realidad aumentada que hoy tenemos son
augmented reality experiences we have are basically mobile augmented reality. We use it mostly in our mobiles. This is between a device and the persons. You use it Instagram, Snapchat, on the go, for gaming. But even if there's Snapchat goals, they are not quite widespread. According to you, the disruption will come in at the point in which people have technology built on their body and they are connected all the time. Is that the turning point?
I think it's I don't know that it's built on our body. It could be translation. I think when we choose to see more is the turning point. For instance, right now there's many consumer options for VR. There's no consumer demand for it. So just because we have VR doesn't mean it's a turning point. I think it comes when the value proposition of looking through augmented reality glasses is so great that we all have them. I think that's the turning point. I think the turning point is going to be based on a desire for more. And if you relate this back to, say, smartphones and feature phones, the feature phones are really simple and smartphones are really great. And when smartphones were finally released, it was the fastest consumer uptake of a technology ever. And it's because we knew why we wanted it. We knew we wanted more screens, we knew we wanted apps, we knew we wanted the access. We never even knew we wanted it until it was available. And it just, I think the smartphones trained us about the potential, or the feature phones trained us about the potential, and the smartphones delivered on that. I think the glasses are going to have that same changeover. People are going to be trained through the mobile technology of AR. And then when the headset comes out, people are going to recognize that having this technology all the time is going to really be great, really be fun.
Bien, antes de ir a preguntas del público,
Okay, so
ya podemos
before
ir
we
preparando los
open the
micrófonos
floor
para
for the
participar.
Q&A and we get the mics ready, I would like to ask you about the possibilities as we speak of monetizing. Here in the audience, there are people working in technology and entrepreneurs. You're talking about the wave that is a bit ahead in time. It still does not translate into monetization or for emerging markets such as ours to develop emerging markets, sustainable businesses today, or is it possible?
Well, it's a really interesting question, right? There's a lot of corporations that are realizing that the economy is changing, the labor force is changing, the way we interact with technology is changing. And there's going to be two things that are happening. There will be some pioneering companies that start doing experiments because they have to. For instance, there's several companies that many companies are using AR and VR as training systems, teaching people how to do their jobs better with less cost. So for corporations that are trying to reduce costs, VR and AR is actually an immediate cost savings. It oftentimes takes a visionary management team to recognize that they should use new technology to reduce costs, but that's real work that can be done right now for everybody. Everybody who has any kind of labor training system has to use this, ultimately, because it changes everything. It improves employee efficiency, but that's one side of it. The other side is, eventually there's going to be a demand for a new style of app and a new style of graphic design. And when you think about all the work that was created to change print over to web, and once again from web over to mobile, all of that graphic design has to be done again for AR. So while it might not be immediately here, I think there's going to be many small experiments that will probably be for money because there's going to be some people that want to showcase out first. And I think even in small markets, the technology, just because the technology's coming, people are going to have to do the design work.
Perfect. Then now we open the floor for questions. I guess you have taken note of the fact that you have a possibility for start giving training. Any questions for the mic? Any question for Spencer here? Oh, please don't be shy. Here. People at the front.
Hello. What do you think about the idea of AR glasses will replace the smartphone in a short period, more or less the next 5 years?
Which will replace?
The smartphones.
It probably is going to be 10, is my guess, 5 or 10. I think the technology is going to be usable, but I don't think it's going to be fashionable. I think there's a barrier that mass markets will have. Snapchat glasses are cool because they're neat colors and have little cameras on them, but getting all of the technology and glasses that makes people want to wear them, and is, by Dior and, fashion houses, that's when I think it really transitions. But the technology has to really get evolved. So first wave, second wave.
Thank you.
Otra pregunta.
Any other questions? Somebody here?
Hola.
Hi, this is my question. You talked about the evolution in technology, but in this case, today we are kind of visually overloaded. So on top of that, to have a visual overburden to our eyes or to our bodies, how do you think our bodies our bodies will evolve vis-a-vis new technologies?
It's a great question. Thank you. I think that vision, especially that video, is when I think of overload, I think of what that is. And to me, it's like Tokyo. It's just there's so much visual stimulation. There's also a huge design movement for a much more minimal lifestyle, and I think we're going to have the choice for which we individually want to have. Some people are going to love the overstimulation. I think of kids who are playing games, and the amount of just graphics that are going on is thrilling to them. I don't know that that's healthy, but it's a personal choice. I would choose minimal, probably, and try to focus functions. But I can see where there's going to be times when I want many things, and it's going to be noisy just because it's useful.
Okay, go ahead, please. My question is, what do you think about the glasses from Google? Was it a step forward or something that was ahead of time that was not correctly understood? Thank you very much.
Releasing new product, releasing new technology is a very challenging thing to do. Google, I think has a great history of releasing experiments. If we waited to polish everything, we wouldn't have the opportunity to see consumer reaction. On the other hand, I think they positioned it a little bit as ready for market and didn't really position it as an experiment, and maybe that was the bigger challenge for them. The glasses themselves, I don't know if have you seen people walking around with them? No. So here's one anecdote, just because I think it's super funny, and I think this is a challenge for AR, just for the technology. So at night, the glasses make a little glow in your eye. So when you see somebody on the street with the glasses, it's not just a silly frame. They actually have a blinking light over their eye, and whenever the light blinks, you can see their eyes dart over to look at the light. And to have a conversation with somebody who has a flashing light on their eye and shifty eyes is very weird. And this will be one of the design challenges that AR will have to encounter. Just real quick on the previous question, that question of like overload information and kind of furthering the Google consumer value, it's really up to us right now to decide how much information we want. Like, we are the creators. This is the generation that is going to create this new thing. We have the greatest responsibility because the first steps that we take in this probably are going to be what sticks. I mean, Apple did the smartphone and has, a grid of icons on it, and that's our life with apps now. It didn't have to be that way. That's just what it was, and now everybody knows it, and nobody wants to learn anything new. The very first steps in AR are going to be so critical from a creative standpoint, and I think by making different decisions, by making decisions that we think might lean it one way or the other, we'll be able to influence the future.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's give Spencer a warm round of applause. Thank you very much. We would like to stay, but we have a next presentation now.